Welcome back to iHeartRadio. So bad it's good. We have been so lucky lately to talk to authors, journalists, and I remind you guys that my love of pop culture, it really started with my love of books. When I was a kid, I would just read as much as possible, and it kind of opened up a world for me in a tiny town in Kansas that I didn't know existed. And I love hearing people's origin stories. And today we have somebody that they just released their first book this week. So even before you guys know this is a trusted brand, I wouldn't put somebody on here that you wouldn't love. So right immediately, I need you to go to Amazon or just go down to your local bookshop. And there's a new book with the best title called Tough Titties on Living Your Best Life When You're the Effing Worst. Our guest name is Laura Belgray, and she is absolutely astounding. I was doing research on her. Now, she is a founder of a company called Talking Shrimp, which is kind of helps people with their copywriting. She's an award-winning copywriting expert. She got her start in TV, writing magazine articles, but she helps entrepreneurs find the perfect words to express and sell what they do in the way that helps them get paid for themselves. Now, personally, I was reading this, and I know I have like 97% a female audience, but as a white, cis, straight, privileged male, I got to tell you, it was one of those things I was reading that inspired me as I went along. I mean, even in the intro, I've been talking about this lately. She says, not that I consider myself an influencer. I'm too old for that now. I've graduated to thought leader. You're never allowed to call yourself either of those things, by the way, but other people can. Just like in acting, where the stages for a woman are ingenue, mom, district attorney, the online phases are influencer, thought leader, sea hag. And then she says, this book, it's for you if you've ever tanked relationships or sabotaged your career because something in you recoiled from success or being a responsibly fully developed human. If you say unpopular opinion at the start of a post you hope will be wildly popular. If you want to be your authentic, unself-conscious, live out loud self, but catch yourself kissing the ass of someone you don't like or fake laughing too loud, then thinking about it all day, whether everyone noticed is now discussing it and is taking turns reenacting it at a secret party you're not invited to. It's for you if you hate follow old nemesis online, hoping they get enormously jealous of you. If you've ever measured your worth by how many bartenders found you sexually attractive enough to let you do something sexually with them. You've ever joined a cringy self-help thing where you felt very much not yourself, or you wake up with your mind racing about everything you should be doing, but you know you probably won't do any of it. Now, this is a person we're about to talk to who found their groove later in life, just like I feel like I'm finding my groove later in life. So this is just so inspiring. This book also is laugh out loud funny. I mean, literally, I really laughed out loud. So enough of my blabbing. Laura Belgray, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That is the greatest introduction I have ever had on any podcast.
Well, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you next time, Laura. Have a good day and congratulations.
Yep, day made. Goodbye. Thank you for having me. Yes.
And by the way, I want to also remind the audience, she name drops Bravo shows multiple times in this book. She brought $1 million listing in this book. You are kind of a Bravo pop culture fan yourself.
I am. Do you know what? I own the URL Bravo Sexual, which I've never done anything with. I've just been sitting on it. It's how I identify sexually.
Wait, by the way, you make a point of saying you just recently, in the last couple of years, hit $1 million status, which is just unheard of. But I think you could hit $2 million status if you sell bravosexual.com. That is money in the bank.
I'm waiting for an offer. The right offer.
I'll give you $100 right now. No, before we get into anything, I just got to say congratulations. Like you've been a professional for a long time, but what does it feel having released your first book this week? Like that's something that will always be there for the test of time.
Yeah, it feels pretty awesome and overwhelming and exhausting. I mean, there's just so much going on at once, and also the pressure to like post about every single thing on social media. And now I'm starting to understand because I've been in the spotlight, at least in my world this week, I'm starting to understand why the celebrities that I, try to DM and story and repost and kiss their ass a little bit. And now I understand why they're so abrupt in terms in their answers to me. Just like thank you or a heart. I'm like, that's it, just a heart.
Laura, I'm such a mess. I can't even open most of my DMs because like then I want to get into it with people and all that. And then if you do the heart, it feels like completely impersonal, but
It
you have to,
does.
it's really
Heart,
weird.
heart and prayer hands. That's the thank you hands.
Yeah. It's so sad. Like you get to middle age and you're learning how to use emojis at a certain point. And I mean, what's the effective way? You're a professional. What's the effective way to use an emoji in your line of work?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, that's to me is the most effective way is as an inadequate response to somebody's very generous post. And but also I spend so long like fiddling with emojis, also gifs, where at the point where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I just spent 15 minutes trying to access or find a chef's kiss emoji. I'm like, how do you make chef's kiss? And like, do you cobble it together out of like okay hands? And well, I couldn't find it I'm like, do I have to update my emojis, etc. And then the day was done. I'm like, I just
Yes.
wasted my entire life on my deathbed. It's like she spent too long looking for the right emoji. That's what's going to be on my tombstone.
I hope there is an emoji on the tombstone after you say the emoji thing.
I hope it's chef's kiss.
Well, I mean, you've gone through these stages of your career that the book takes us through, where, like, I mean, I remember Spy Magazine, like you got your first thing doing a Doers, print, and then you went to like Nick at Night, like TV descriptions, and it kind of led you to finding copywriting. Was there ever a time in your life where something has felt like this is the right path, or have you bumped and stumbled throughout your career and you're like, this is where the direction of the water took us?
Yeah, I think when I started writing promos for TV, that's when I first felt that feeling of, I have my dream job. It's finally all coming together. Like this was, and I was there for way too long, to the point where I was past complacent and past the age where I had made a pact with people. Like, if I'm ever still doing this at that age, shoot me, or we'll shoot each other. And then we reach that age where like, oh, maybe we should, kick the can down the road a little bit before shooting each other. But like when I first started doing it, and for several years, it's like, this is my ultimate dream job. I was getting paid to watch a bunch of TV and write little things like the commercials for the shows that go in during the commercials. And short of just getting paid to watch TV, which that was the first dream. That's the ultimate dream right there, is like where I watch a whole bunch of Real Housewives of New York, or well, in the past, or rewatch the like season 4 Scary Island, and then someone writes me a check, hands it to me, and says, keep up the good work. There's plenty more where this came from. Just keep watching TV. That's it.
I mean, in a sense, that's what we've been doing all our lives anyways, is just you probably been writing those things in your head before you ever got paid to do any of it.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it wasn't that effortless, but yeah, sort
No,
of.
I mean, just like your that was always where your interest was. And I think a lot of us have those kind of thoughts in our head, but we never actually get we never give ourselves the permission to actually try to do these things, or like potentially that these could be careers. And you've made such an amazing career of it. And then you started inspiring other people and showing people the right way to do these things. When you were growing up, I mean, I was reading your origin story. There's no way that you ever would have thought that you would be here today. And I don't mean on this podcast, but the release of your first book.
No, I didn't. I mean, I thought about writing a book at various points in my life, and especially when I was younger, meaning like 10, 11, and had no idea that my writing was garbage. I was writing like a novel, which was, I remember writing this novel that was a complete ripoff of Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer, where about two boys rolling in the dirt of the town square, yelling things like, don't you talk about my paw. And, right, what you know, right? I had no idea that it was derivative or bad. And I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I also said I'm going to be an artist because I thought my drawing was really, really good. And when you're young and you're just like, yeah, I'm the best in my whole class at drawing. And I knew I wasn't the best at dodgeball, but I was the best at drawing, definitely, and maybe shop and writing. So, but since that, so then I might have been able to picture I'm gonna have a book out one day. I don't think I ever pictured doing it at 53 or being 53 for that matter. But I
Well,
was like, 53 is unfathomably old.
No, I mean, it's
To a
not,
young
but you
person.
actually, there was a quote in one of your articles that says, it's better when you wait. A pet cause of mine is shifting the perception of age. Social media means people don't have to disappear when Hollywood and the media would have disappeared them. And I thought that was such an amazing quote because age gets brought up time and time again. And in this book, is it still something that you struggle with the perception of, or do you realize that you're like, man, the world is mine at this point? And in seeing that book, I was like, as a dude that's getting older, I was like, yeah, man, let's do this.
Yeah, I do feel on the one hand, I feel like the world is mine and this is my time. On the other hand, I'm very aware of aging. As a woman, I am constantly looking in the mirror and pulling back my neck just a little bit. I'm like, just if I could wear a clip on the back of my neck that pulled the skin back, like one of those koala bears that you used to put on your back,
I think Ramona does that actually. I think she wears clips on
clips and a high pony. Exactly. And yeah, and by the way, like watching that show is like a crystal ball for your face. It's like, oh no, that's where I'm going.
I was talking about this the other day because I rewatched the Real Housewives of New Jersey christening episode from season 3. And Melissa Gorga shows up and she has a completely different nose. She has all of this stuff. But I remember at the time, and the same thing with Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Kyle Richards, I remember watching those day and date thinking, wow, those are really pretty women. And then you see them now and it's a completely, you still see them, but you're like, wow, I thought they were beautiful at the time. And you see all of through Housewives, you not only see your own life progress, but you see how these women have progressed themselves and what social media and things like that have done to these looks.
Yes, it's true. They've altered them completely. And some of them look better now and younger, and some of them it's like, oh my God, look how young she was. And I thought she was so old because they're always just a little bit older than me, especially on Roni, they've always been a little older than me. And I thought Jill was like a sea hag when it started, when I was first watching. And now I look back, I'm like, she is young, she is youthful and lovely.
She looks like she's studying for her master's degree. She looks 25, 26,
Exactly. And I'm like, oh my God, that's how someone who's like, in their 30s probably looks at me. And one day they're going to look back and be like, wow, Laura Belgray was so young. I can't believe I thought she was so old. It's horrifying.
Oh, so, it really, yeah. It's like, I was trying to dye my beard because it was like, now it's getting white, from Vanderpump Rules this season, it's just getting whiter and whiter. And then I found out during the pandemic, I had an allergic reaction to Just for Men. So I looked like the Nutty Professor. And then I guess with men, we have this weird thing of like, well, it looks distinguished. Like we don't it's one of the many unfair things about between men and women.
Oh yeah.
Tough Titties, the title of the book. You talk about this, but can you explain to the audience why name this book Tough Titties?
So to me, first of all, it's something that I say a lot, A, because I'm 12, and B, it's sort of the ultimate sorry, not sorry it's my not natural reaction when anyone says to me, you're supposed to do it this way, or so-and-so thinks you should do it that way. I'm like, well, yeah, tough titties. So-and-so wants this from you. Tough titties. Yeah. Someone thinks that you should be coming into the office before noon. Tough titties. Or like, why aren't you having kids? Like, you should have kids. Kids are delightful. Yeah, you want me to have kids? Tough titties. So that is my sorry, not sorry, my non-apology for being me and doing life not the way you are supposed to. And that's kind of the theme of the book. Not on anyone's timeline, the timeline that's expected of us. Not according to anyone's expectations of how what a woman's life is supposed to look like, or a girl's back then, or what a successful career is supposed to look like. I could never make it into the office by 9 or 10, and lasted all of 6 months in my one 9 to 5 job that I ever had. So
Uh,
that's why tough titties.
which, by the way, you guys, I'll link to the book and all, but there was a great Elle article. They featured her in May, and the title of it is "Why Won't People Just Let Me Not Be a Mom?" which I thought was a hysterical title. But in the book, you talk about this, trying to find this place of not giving F's. And in reality, how many F's do you, I mean, like Erica Jane, how many F's do you still give? Like
Oh my God. Way too many, way too many F's. And in the book, I'll say this, like, I believe 0 of the people who claim to give 0 F's, especially if they're declaring it on social media. Well, then you really give an F. You give an F what everyone thinks, and you want them to really admire you for giving 0 F's, which means you give an F. Oh, at least one. Yeah.
You also, studying the internet now, as we have to do to push all of our things, it's like this really wild vacillation between the Gary V's of the world and then the people, the anti-hustler culture. And it's like, where is there room for all of us in between? The Gary V of like showing up showing up on every podcast, doing everything. It's exhausting. I'll be like, dude, this guy again? Like, how do we live in between?
It's a very good question, because I think that also the anti-hustle culture is hustly. It's hustle based. People are hustling to show how anti-hustle they are. They're really
doing TikToks
grinding
with eight angles in a TikTok to show us how easy their life is.
Exactly. So I think somewhere in the middle is saying, you know what? I give way too many F's. What people think, how successful I am, whether I get engagement on social media, whether it all works. And I'm just trying my best. I'm just trying to find the balance between doing what I need to do to succeed and not doing more than I want to do, than I have energy to do. And I really need time. I need more time to lie down and watch Peacock.
I know. God, Peacock, by the way, is killing it. Like, they have all of these extended supersized episodes now of the things that they put on Bravo to get you over to Peacock. They just started filming Roni, the new Roni reboot. It's an ultimate girls trip, but you have Ramona, Sonia, Luann, Kristen Takeman for some reason.
For some reason.
You got to have somebody just to even it out, I guess. Kelly Ben Simone. What can you speak to, like, what Roni? I mean, you live in New York. You grew up in New York. That is your stomping grounds. What did Roni mean to you? And are you looking forward to the reboot of Roni that comes out in July? And are you looking forward to Ultimate Girls Trip with the old school gals?
Yeah. So what Roni meant to me when it came out was, thank God I feel seen. Somebody is caring about New York, because who cares about Orange County? And I really, I think it was the second one. No, maybe it was the third. I don't remember what order it was. I know it was the first. It was OC, maybe Beverly Hills.
Oh yeah, OC was the first. Then I think you actually had Atlanta, maybe, or I'm actually confused. Jersey and Atlanta.
Maybe Jersey came next. I can't remember, but I do remember feeling this sense of finally my day has come when it was New York. And then, watching it and feeling a little betrayed by the New Yorkers they picked, because I'm like, these are not New Yorkers. This is not my New York. I liked them enough, but also that back then it was really supposed to be housewives. I was like, not one of them. I don't have to watch Housewives, but why are they calling themselves housewives? Now that term has become so loose and liberal, but I felt like, it was a lie. It's like, what's like Bethany in that little post-war apartment on the Upper East Side. And then I think their apartments were somewhat offensive to me, not the brownstones, but I felt like Ramona's was, and I could be getting this wrong, but I felt like hers was a fake pre-war in a post-war apartment, like that she had put in pre-war details, moldings into, which would be very Ramona.
That would be amazing. I mean, I want a architectural digest of Ramona's old apartment.
Yeah, I think we have to do a little forensic digging, but I've always, that has been my go-to. Like I felt loyal to Roni from the very start. That's like, that is my Housewives. That's my franchise, and I am looking forward to the Ultimate Girls Trip. I feel like that's too little, and I did want the reboot. I wanted the legacy, not the reboot. I wanted the
Yeah.
legacy season, a true legacy season. And I think that this cast is pretty great. Like Kristen Takeman, you're right, for some reason it feels random, but I think there's already some good drama there with Ramona having no idea who she is, even though they had
Yeah.
a whole season together. Ramona like not remembering that there was a glass thrown off a canoe or in a rowboat, I forget what they were in, into the water. Kristen Takeman being like, you know, my face is my fortune. You've cut my lip. And
No, I mean, I think it's interesting now because the Housewives of today, it almost is like a Survivor TV show where they are trying to outlast,
yes.
outwit, outplay. And it used to be kind of, you know, you go back and you're like, wow, this is like a documentary. But now it is like, can we last throughout the season? And I feel like this is going to be unhinged because I think they feel like they're auditioning for Roni Legacy. Like they're like, if this
Yes.
goes good, they will bring us all back and we will all get paid. And I just have a feeling though, some of those ladies can be so heavy handed with it that we might, it's going to be it's going to be like Lisa Rinna, like, you know, the last season when Lisa Rinna was like reenacting herself and it was just too much, you know?
I like anytime when they're trying to pull focus and they act like they're really uncomfortable with what has happened or what is happening right now.
Yeah.
It's like Marge on New Jersey being like, I have to leave this wedding. I'm just too upset that Melissa Gorga isn't here to celebrate with the family. And like, you don't care at all. You just
No.
need, yeah, they're all trying so hard for a storyline. So I think that will make it fascinating. I think they're all going to be incredibly misbehaved. And I think that the 2020 season that got them canceled was a real teachable moment in that they learned not to make anything a teachable moment. That was such a misfire when they had on
Ebony in
Ebony
Ramona's apartment trying to talk with her through the election.
about
And Ramona, like every actor, she was like pivoting. She would be like angry and then extremely bawling and then back to anger and then laughter. And she was like clutching her dog. It was the wildest thing, which I think we'll look back on as, you're right, a teachable moment. But I remember feeling so uncomfortable because I'm like, Ramona ain't going to learn, you guys. She's not going to learn.
She is not here to learn. She is not going to shift her perspective or any of those things. I love that, like the whole season they were trying to educate Ramona or educate each other. Like, I want to show you my Harlem through a Shabbat dinner. What? That's two. You're trying to teach two things in one. That's not going to work.
I'm sitting there watching in a mask. I can't leave my place. And I'm like, what is going on? It was a really wild time, but it was so bad, you guys. You guys know what happened, that they yanked it and they're going to like, it was too toxic, which is really so interesting when somebody says a too toxic thing. And I was like, yeah, I feel that. But then I went back, like I said, watched that christening episode from 2011. I mean, people were throwing punches at a boy's christening. Like, people almost died that night at a boy's christening. And I was like, wait a sec, maybe it's not too toxic. Maybe we've just changed as a culture and we're trying to catch up to our old haunts and our old behavior and what we used to love and trying to find place for both, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like we need to bring some of that toxicity back. It needs.
Wait, wait, that's the title of your next book. We need to bring some of that toxicity back.
Maybe it's just toxic titties will be my next book.
By the way, have you ruined saying tough titties for yourself for the rest of your life because they're going to be like, she's plugging her book again. Watch out.
I don't think I have. I think I've ruined other people saying it. Now people say it to me if I want something. Well, my husband's been throwing it at me. Like, well, I'm not ready to leave. He's like, let's get in the car. It's time to go. Why aren't you showered? And
Why?
I'm like, I'm not ready yet. And I'll say tough titties. And then I'll say, haha. So that's.
Which, by the way, we'll bring up your husband in a bit because I do have a couple of comments about him. And by the way, this does talk about your dating life. This has one of the best titles of a book that I've read in a long time. I'm not going to say it here, but I'll leave it for a surprise. And you can DM me, you guys, if you found the title that I'm referring to. I mean, I know this is kind of an overview question, but what would you hope that women can get from this book? I know what I got from it, but like I don't think I'm the primary audience for this. What do you hope that people read this and get from it?
Yeah, people, because I'm all into cis white privileged males reading this book. That's any form of male, any gender, non-binary women, anyone like that. I hope that, first of all, I hope they find it entertaining and compelling and funny, and want to stay up way too late reading it, which to me that's the holy grail of a book, like that you can't stop reading it. But also a sense of relief that maybe they're not the only hot mess in town, the only person whose life isn't what they thought it would be at this age, whatever age that is, that maybe they're not behind, or they're not alone in feeling behind, whether it's in their life or their career, and that maybe they're not doing life all wrong, or that even if they are, that it's going to lead them where they are supposed to be. So I like delivering relief and permission, making people feel like, oh, it's okay to be myself, and also the permission to just say the quiet part out loud. And I think there's a lot in the book where you might say, oh, you're allowed to say that? You're allowed to say that in a book? And I found, do you know Samantha Irby's book?
Yeah.
She's so funny. And I feel like her books give me that gift when I read it. I'm like, oh yeah, you can talk like this in a book, or just in life, where you could admit. I've heard her on podcasts just saying, like, I cannot keep up with the world and the news. And she's an arguably good person, right? But that doesn't mean that like just because she can't keep up with what's going on and she only wants to talk about, say, Vanderpump Rules, doesn't mean that she doesn't care about the world. And so I find that very permission giving, hearing somebody just admit they are who they are. So that's what I want my book to give to other people.
And I will say, I mean, just reading the book myself, is that one of the biggest compliments I can give you into anything that I really truly love, and what I try to do on this show, is that I want you to feel like you're in a conversation with a friend, that you are, that is that thing of like, oh my God, or, you want to actually talk back to you or with you or share a story with you. Cause you're like, oh, I love that. I want to share something of my experience. And that really inspired me, because you guys, I don't know if you know, our brains have become mush because we're watching too many reality TV shows, that I started not reading as much. And so when I got this, I've been getting books lately, and I'm like, yeah. And then I'll sit down and be like, can I get this in audiobook format? And I can't. And then I have to learn. But immediately this just sucked me in, because that intro just alone, I was like, this is specifically what I'm going through right now. And it just led me in. And then I didn't prepare for it to be as funny as it was. And that's what kept me in there. And it was just so relatable on so many levels, or you found something to relate to in every chapter there was. So I thought it was just, and it just really moves so quickly. How long did it take you, the actual process of writing this?
Oh God, so long. I mean, as usual, I felt like I'm behind, I'm too slow. And so I started writing it, I'd say in earnest, in 2019. And that's when I decided I really want a book deal. I want to make this happen. I felt like I would like to have a book out in my 50th year. Well, that was my 50th year. I was like, found out that books take like 4 years to come out from even from the time you get the book deal. So
Well, they have to
yeah.
find the trees, they have to find the paper, the whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. They have to source it all. So that's when I really started writing it and writing a proposal and looking for an agent and all that kind of stuff. In 2020, October 2020, I got the book deal. And then 2021 was a mess of me pacing, crying, saying I can't do this. Yeah, deep in the hole of in the hellhole of the cliched, writer's block, and I can't figure out what's the point of this story, and this is all garbage, and I thought it was just gonna pour out of me, etc. And then 2022, April 2022 is when I handed in the manuscript, and then it is out a year and change later.
That's
So
crazy.
it's a long ass process. And on the one hand, it goes so slowly. It's like, I can't believe this is taking so long. And then on the other hand, it's like, oh my God, my book is coming out next week. My book is coming out tomorrow. How did it sneak up on me? So yeah, that's.
Have your friends read it, or and what is your
Mhm.
husband the book? Have they read it? What are their reviews of this book? Has anybody been hypercritical that's been like close to you
Well, one person who read an early version, my best friend Vic, who is in the book,
in the
a
book?
lot of the book. Yes, she's heavily
Is she the
featured
one in
in it.
is she the one in the Martin Scorsese story?
Yes,
Which,
she
by the
is.
way, there's a story, you guys, where they hang out with not they. She uses Martin Scorsese for the book, but assure you that it is not Martin Scorsese, even though something in me still wants to believe it's Martin Scorsese. So,
It's not Martin Scorsese. But yeah, so she's the one in that chapter. And she read an early version and she's like, I love it so much. She's like, I love how much I'm in it. But she's like, I feel like you're like too honest in a way. You're too honest. You're kind of mean to yourself, and I feel like you don't show yourself as lovable a person as I know you to be. And so it wasn't really harsh criticism; it was loving criticism, and I had to figure out how to take that in and react to that feedback in a way that answered it. I was like, is she right about that? And then I realized looking through it, it's like, yeah, I'm pretty honest about all my flaws and all the bad things I've done and being sometimes being the worst. And I think the missing element was my actual feelings, like the emotion or what I wanted or why I was behaving this way, which is what makes us understand a person and see them
yeah,
and
yeah.
the motivations and root for them. And so I had to add in a lot of that. And part of me was like never inclined to share my feelings in any way. It just doesn't occur to me because my dad was a shrink, and there's a whole chapter about this. That once he became a shrink, he was so obsessed with therapy and feelings that he was always probing me like all the way up my butthole for my feelings. And I learned to keep them in a lockbox, wrapped in plastic, that kind of plastic that cuts you. That's anything in the drugstore is kept in that you can't open, like the CDs used to be, and at the bottom of the sea. So yeah, that was some tough criticism, and it was necessary feedback. And then my husband loved the book. He took forever to read it. He was like, I'm reading your book, I'm reading your book. And he'd still be on chapter 1. I'm like, is this book a slog? Is it really hard to get into? He's like, no, I'm just afraid. While, while he was reading it, he was just afraid. And then he skipped chapter 9, the one that you were alluding to, that we won't say the name. DM you. He skipped chapter 9, and he skipped the chapter about the boyfriend who came right before him, which is
Oh yeah.
he's never going to leave her. Yeah.
That, I mean, I would be a God. Yeah, I didn't even. That would be. That would be really. You're like giving an instruction manual to every romantic experience and non-romantic experiences that you've ever had in your life in this book from a very young age. I was just thinking about the time you were saying like I wanted to be the one on the beach towel earlier in the book when you were young. Yeah, inside joke, you guys. I was thinking about Roni too. We were just talking about it. Bethany Frankel, you had mentioned her, is that, we had this affinity for Bethany because we got to see her actually create something. We actually saw her, really, we saw her in supermarkets pushing that skinny girl brand and pushing that. And then we saw her, sell this company, Bethany getting married, all of this stuff. And she, to me, in right now, as of today, even is trying to still be kind of that Gary Vee of like, I want to be an influencer now. I want to be a TikToker. I want to be,
Yes.
Kind of what you talk a little bit about in the book of this influencer culture. It is weird. What do you think about Bethany Frankel? I was wondering.
So I am drawn to Bethany. I miss her on the show. I feel like it needs her. I perceive her at, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think she's an incredible narcissist.
I you think? Yeah, I can't diagnose, but maybe.
No, not diagnosing her, but she cannot stop talking about herself, and it always comes back to like me. Andy Cohen always said that I was the Greek chorus of the show. Like I'm the one that I'm the voice that's really necessary on the show. I'm the Greek chorus. I'm the one with the sane answers, the witty quips, and I will listen to her all day. I think I'm drawn to narcissists. I think that's the problem. But I
think a lot of us are. I think a lot of us.
Yeah, we are. They're very charismatic. And, I appreciate that she's saying like this drugstore brand is so much more hydrating than the really expensive one, than Shiseido. But I'm like a little bit like, shut up about how I think she backed herself into a corner saying, I'm never returning to the show ever again. It's not good for my life. It's not good for me. I don't need the show. But I am the Greek chorus of it and I am an essential piece of it. Like, well, then just go back on the show. Just give us what we want. I don't need the makeup tips. There are plenty of people to tell me that. And I also don't feel that, again, not a plastic surgeon. I don't think that she has been honest about the work she's had done. She's pretending that she's the only honest person in the industry. Like, there's no way Botox got your chipmunk cheeks that you started the show with down to that narrow jawline. There's no way.
She discovered it was Pilates. It was really intense face
Pilates. It's all Pilates, you guys. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I always get, perturbed about Bethany because, like, I think she's iconic, obviously, and she did help these shows so much. But like I said, Orange County became like, I would say Vicki Gunvalson put them on the map before Bethany Frankel. And I get territorial where I'm like, nobody is above the show. Like the show is the star. Like the show creates stars. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live in a sense, but nobody is like, we can keep going regardless and stop ragging on the show in the press when it's bad. And then when it starts getting good saying, oh, it was because of me. It's like, pick a lane and stick to that lane. But it's got to be, I sometimes wonder like the frustration that Andy Cohen must go through having to deal with sometimes of these ladies having his number, and Bethany Frankel of like, which one is it going to be this month? Does she like the show? Does she not like the show? And the show I think would be so great with her, but I don't want her coming back thinking this show needs me. I need to save the show.
Yeah. Well, that's the only way she would ever come back. And it would have to be a glorious payday for her, which I don't know if the show is willing to pay. She's probably burned her bridges, but then again, she is such good TV that they would find a way to take, to bring her back, to create another spinoff, like Real Housewives, Scary Island, the remix or something like that.
Yeah.
But
sold.
Yes. I would watch that. I feel like Bethany doesn't deserve our loyalty and our viewership, but I would watch.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, listen, at this point, I will watch anything on Bravo. It has been proven time and time again. So, I've gotten so much joy out of it, including Vanderpump Rules, which this season has been truly insane. I've talked nonstop on this show about it with the scandal of it all. And last night we had a Secrets Revealed episode, but talking about not, diagnosing people with narcissism. Tom Sandoval seems to be an unsuccessful, Bethany Frankel, if you're comparing to Bethany in terms of monetizing. And it is interesting with influencer culture, all of these cast members have really thrived because of his infidelity. What is your take on Tom Sandoval watching Vanderpump Rules?
Yeah, you just made a really good point.
I gotta grab my dog off the bed. 1 sec. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Pause.
Sorry. She was like trying to jump off the bed and she's elderly. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
she's
So
elderly, little
yeah.
bows in her hair.
Yeah.
I
Don't
love that. The
Okay.
lady with like the bow just hanging off.
One bow. 3810, right.
Yes,
Okay.
one bow. Okay, so yes, you made a really good point that just now that yeah, they're really thriving because of Tom Sandoval's infidelity, and yet sitting there and yelling and like poo poo head, boo. Wow, they should really be kissing his ass, thanking him for the shitty things he's done that put them all on the map. Like holy crap. I mean, James is now, he's probably a really well-paid DJ now at this point. I've seen videos
Dude,
of him playing the theme song and
and
the
people are
crowd
wigging
goes
out.
wild. Yes.
It cost
Singing to it.
$50,000 to book DJ James Kennedy for a wedding.
Jesus
$50,000.
Christ.
For Tom Sandoval's karaoke band, it's 25. It's 25,000.
That's
Isn't
amazing.
that crazy?
That's it is great. His cover band with his probably the shirt off is not extra.
Yeah,
Like, he just takes that off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it regardless. So, I mean,
Right.
that's the only thing in terms of like influencer culture that he's done right, is that you'll still have the stray handful of girls of like, I'd still hit it. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good looking bod, you know?
Yeah, well, I got a friend of mine who's a gay man into Vanderpump. I've been trying to get him to watch for years and years and years, and he was always like, "Nah, not into it. Too straight for me. Not feeling it." And then this year he was, "Okay, fine. I will start watching. Do I have to watch from the beginning? Which season do I start with?" I'm like, "Just start with the beginning." And he immediately texting me. I mean, he started a group, like a Vanderpump #hot mess group on Instagram. And
He jumped on the bandwagon.
He jumped on the
went crazy.
bandwagon to such an extent. And he's like, Tom Sandoval is hot. And I'm like, well, just wait. And then he's like, Jax, smoke show. I'm like, wow, you really haven't watched much of it yet.
Smoke show. It's great. I suggest people always start with this season, and then they can go back and give you like a prequel to a movie, like
Yes.
a Godfather prequel, because you're like, oh, now I understand why people dislike Jax, or oh, I see now how Tom positioned himself as a really good guy for all of these seasons.
Yes, the best friend. I mean, paying for Rachella, and God knows how much money did he shell out in the name of being a good friend, which is being a good friend equals camera time, obviously. He becomes part of the storyline. He's like, look, I set up fireworks for you. Then he gets camera time. So yes, that just occurred to me. Well, but yeah, oh, what were you going to ask? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I completely agree with you on positioning yourself on TV, and he's been there for 10 seasons. And I think the audience, what really took us for a loop was that we really bought into this was kind of a weird guy that did his weird things, and we supported that, but he also was so in love with Ariana. So we never could have really, even though this show is based on infidelity and cheating, we never really could have pictured it, even though we should have been picturing it all along. And you talk about infidelity in the book as well, but like, I mean, did that shock you as well? Or were you kind of like, because for me, it was like a visceral reaction. I was in it like a Super Bowl game. What I imagine men watching sports are like, I was like, oh, I was glued to it.
Oh, same. I mean, from the very moment I found out, I found out when the world, do you remember where you were when you heard about Ariana finding his phone? And I felt it for her. I have been cheated on. I've opened up someone's emails and found like disgusting, like obvious, flagrant evidence of the cheating, like discussions of the sex. And I mean, this was before there was FaceTime and you could take a screen grab, but I really felt that, like, holy crap, what is that like to pick up someone's phone, your boyfriend's phone, and look through it and see exactly what a little like smidgen of an instinct told you might, and we're hoping not to find. It was an incredible sequence of events, and then them going back, hearing that they were going back to filming, and the fight, the alleged punch in the face that Sheena couldn't possibly have done, because her nails were too long. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's been such an exciting time, and a little bit of a rift between me and my husband because I've been trying to get him to watch, and he's never going to watch Vanderpump. I mean, the most he's ever done, Bravo wise, is talk over the show when I'm watching Roni and say like, "Hi, I'm Luann," um, which is not
I'm
helpful.
Lou Man.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I'm Lou Man, and I just been trying, telling him, I'm like, I have no one else to talk to about this right now. Do you know what just happened? Like, I just got to tell you what Tom Sandoval said on the reunion about the T-shirt, and he's like, listen, every time you talk about this, it feels like you're telling me your dream, and that is a terrible thing to listen. I just can't. I'm like, okay.
I thought you were going to say it created a. I thought you were going to say it created a rift with your husband because he was like pro Sandoval. I thought that was like, and it's like, no, he just doesn't like the show. By the way, Vanderpump Rules usually is a feeder system into Bravo for straight men. It's like that and Below Deck.
Yeah.
Below Deck,
right.
They love to see the boats, and men love to see binge drinking and potential like sex with like 20 and 30-year-olds. That's what it seems like, a feeder system. And then they secretly get into Housewives, like it kind of washes over them like a virus. But those are usually the two shows, Vanderpump Rules and Below Deck, that I've found.
Right, because it's like, oh, there are hot people on these shows. I'll watch that.
Yeah.
I mean, my husband is in his 60s. He's 9 years older than me, but totally ageist about all of them. He's like, these people. Oh, there's a hot one. Who's that? Like, yeah, that's the new one they just added, because they always add like a young new. If they add in anybody to a cast now, they're like 20 years younger than any of the original members. It's like on sitcoms when they used to add a little kid with a bowl haircut, to up the ratings, like on Family Ties. It's like, come on, you had a baby, really? Family Ties. I think it was like Leo DiCaprio on
Growing Pains.
Yeah, Growing Pains. Yes.
Yeah.
They would always add in a young little boy, and usually and on Different Strokes too. I forget the kid's name.
Cosby Show did it too. Cosby Show added like Raven Simone, and if I'm not mistaken, I was really little at the time. I think it was like a 3-year time jump. Raven Simone was a baby, then all of a sudden it was like Raven Simone was like a 4 or 5-year-old toddler. Taught him like, where did the kid come up from in lines? Like I believe there was a time jump where they would put in that like cute little kid that could deliver comedic lines perfectly. And with reality shows, you kind of get that as well when they do new castings of, or I was even thinking about Roni with like Leah McSweeney, that first episode, the first season, not the second season, when she came in and she was throwing tiki torches. It was like, whoa, look at this new energy in Roni. And it didn't work on the second season.
Right. And had a streetwear brand. And
we're going to the east side, not east side. Wait, was it Lower West Side or
downtown? Lower East Side.
Downtown.
It was probably
Lower East Side.
She was the downtown girl. Whereas like the other cast members are like, downtown. My goodness, how does one get there? Do cabs go there?
They look scared. Like every scene that they would have at like some massage place or one of Leah's parties, except for Sonia. Sonia like could hang anywhere, but the rest of them were like, am I going to get tetanus? Like what's going on here?
Right, exactly. I didn't get my shots. Can I still come down here? Although Sonia is a little delicate. She never knows how she's going to get anywhere. I remember in the early seasons. Oh yeah, the jitney. And then the early seasons when Alex and Simon lived in Brooklyn, and Alex would always, this was before Brooklyn was hot, and Alex would always be trying to make a case for Brooklyn. She'd be like, I think that like it's a great place for a fashion show. There's just this hot young energy in Brooklyn. And Jill would be like, so this is Brooklyn. Oh, hello,
Well, I mean, God, I always think if they had kept, now they live in Australia, Simon, and I like it. But like if they had kept that Brooklyn place, I'm sure it would be like multi-million dollars at this point.
Yes, they would never need to even think about returning to reality TV. They could just retire off of that real estate.
She could buy as many Herman Munster shoes as she would want with all that money. Which, by the way,
she's around all day.
She's coming back to Ultimate Girls Trip, not the Roni season, but she's on the one that has already been filmed with the Brandy Glanville. I don't know. I think maybe church, but
where
Brandy Glanville.
Brandy sexually harassed. What's her name from New Jersey?
Caroline Manzo.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Speaking of
I
social
think
media, Brandy Glanville is a wild Twitter follower because you can tell she usually like dips into wine at night and she really just rants about like this is what they expected me to do. Like she's like not having a good time right now, like every night, because she'll just rail against everything and how she is treated. But we've created these reality stars that then I think always think about this influencer culture of like, where does this go from here? Like, do we have to buy products from like Bachelor contestants for the rest of our lives? Like, how do we even like in what you do, even with like copywriting, and you were like, people will take your courses online and stuff of like, where does this go? We can't all be this. Like, how do we find our voice? Like, how do you help us find our voice?
I don't know how to help the housewives find their voices. I do think like in both Housewivesville and showbiz at large, you have to, if you are like nearing the end of your 20s, you've got to be thinking about your lifestyle brand. That's it. Like that's your next chapter. You have to be thinking about that. What
Oh
is
my
your
God.
line of shapewear, your app, your accountability coaching group program, Teddy Mellencamp? You have to have that, or you're not going to have anything. You're going to
Oh
age out
God.
of being hot enough
Uh,
for anything but but pimping out a lifestyle. But like I like put Bethany. Well, back to the narcissism. She'll always be like, "Yeah, they call it the Bethany clause. I created a clause because now Bravo is really wary of like cash it.
oh
They make
yeah.
sure that they cash in. They make sure that they cash in. If you have a lifestyle brand, if you have any kind of brand that you're bringing on the show, they make sure to build into the contract that they get a part of it. And
You
or
do a
maybe
good
Bethany
Bethany, by
clause.
the way. You
Thank
do a
you.
really good Bethany. It's just the speeding up is just, I was like already got tense. Like I was watching one of her videos. I was like, oh my God. You're right. Like that Bravo now owns a piece of any product that they actually put, like Loverboy, I believe on Summer House, Bravo has a piece of that. And I mean, it's very smart because, Bethany made millions. And I mean,
Right.
I don't know if they truly call it the Bethany clause, but I think it was definitely inspired by her.
Yeah.
It's just a clause, but she's like, I call it the Bethany clause.
Right.
Um, yeah, no, I always think about like finding like what's your special sauce. Like I feel like reading your book, you seem like you've crystallized your voice where I specifically knew who I was going to be talking to today. But how do others do that? How do we find our voice? Like when we do give so many fucks, how do we even
Yes.
begin to do that?
Yeah, I think it well, first of all, it starts with surrounding yourself with people who make you feel like yourself. And that's got to be really hard to do if you are on a reality show, by the way. Like the cameras are on you. Just being yourself, being your natural self, especially if you're a nice person, that's not going to cut it. You've got to manufacture everything. You have to manufacture what you're thinking, what you care about, what you say you care about, what upsets you. All the drama is so manufactured, or else they're off the show if they don't do that. But in
Yeah.
regular life, if you're not on a reality show, surround yourself with people who make you feel like yourself. That's really important. If you find yourself, don't you get a hangover when you're around somebody who makes where you feel like you're saying things you don't mean? Um, and you know what I mean? And then the next day you're like, ugh, I just feel gross about that dinner I had last night with that person.
Yeah.
Why did
Your
I?
energy is
Like,
all sucked out.
yeah, yes, it's all sucked out. And then just, yeah, be like, it's easier said than done sometimes to say, be who you are, be your real self. And our parents have been telling us that since we were in fifth grade, and no one invited us to the party. And like, if they don't like you for who you are, then they're not your real friends. Like, but I wanted them to be my real friends. I want to be at
Yes.
that party.
Yeah, I'm willing to change me to be them. Like, come on,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
willing to be putty. I'm
yes.
trying to think of
Feedback.
what
Tell
was
me what
the
to
like
change.
what did you say? Like it's the what isn't important if you don't know the why, or was it revert? What was the
Oh, yeah. Well, because everybody, especially in the marketing world, in entrepreneurship, all these books, Gary V, all these people talk about how I think it comes from a Simon Sinek TEDx talk about finding your why. How the people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So you have to find your why and work your why. And I just say nobody cares about your why if your what sucks. They want, like,
yeah, yes.
I don't care why Sensodyne makes the toothpaste they make. I use it because it helps you know, helps my teeth be less sensitive and it's got extra whitening in it. So like, I don't care about their values. I really don't. Well, maybe I'd care how if I found out they were funneling money to, QAnon. But other than that, I
Got
don't
bad
care
news
about
for
the
you,
why.
Laura. Sensodyne was on USA
Sensodyne.
Today, the cover. They're the number one supporter of QAnon in this country. Allegedly, I don't. That's totally made up.
Sensodyne
No,
started
I.
Pizzagate. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be now? That would be that. I would actually option that as a movie. That would be something I'd want to see in
Me
film
too.
form.
It would be the new
Uh,
Flaming Hot Cheetos movie.
I got just a couple more minutes with you too, but I wanted because I had gotten this from Eva. She had said we were talking about, and just like that, the Sex in the City, the new Sex in the City that doesn't remind me a lot of the old Sex in the City. And season 2 is about to come up, but I just love this, that your husband lovingly called your book "Loser Sex in the City," which I thought was I was like, that guy needs to write a book. That's hysterical.
Yeah, he's very proud of that line. I mean, it was truly off the top of his head. I was like, I don't know what my book's about. I don't know what the theme is or how to describe it to people. It's so many different things. He's like, isn't it just Loser Sex in the City? I'm like, yes, thank you. I think.
Get out! Get out! Like, leave! What are you talking? Get out! But it's perfect. That's amazing.
It is. It's pretty aptly described. Someone else described it as, "Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret" meets Sex in the City meets Office Space, which is also a pretty accurate.
That's a great. Yeah,
it's a melange.
You can sell that today. Yeah. But Sex in the City, gave us like a view of New York, just like Roni did. And then now we're, 20 plus years later, and they do a reboot of it. And just like that. And we had the first season where it felt like to me, and I'm not from New York, that Sarah Jessica Parker had been cryogenically frozen and just unfrozen in the year 2021. And all of a sudden she like, what's a podcast? And
what is a podcast? That was, I don't know what a podcast is. Why are you telling me to listen to one? Like,
but also like the only podcast that takes live call-in, like a call-in radio show. I'm like, that's not a podcast, but
woke moment.
Yeah, exactly. Woke moment. And Che Diaz, come on.
Hey, it's me, Che Diaz.
Yeah, oh my God. Were you a huge fan of Sex in the City? I mean, like everybody was, but you lived in New York. Did you feel that was represented, a good representation of your life in New York growing up?
No, I wasn't. Absolutely not. My version was Loser Sex in the City. First of all, I can't wear heels. I'm terrible in them. I fall. I twist my ankle. I could never wear heels and dresses. I'm not a fan of my legs. Nobody can walk on cobblestones, which they do in Manolos. So that part of it, that part of it is bullshit. A lot of it was bullshit, but I loved it. I always loved it. And then rewatching it, when I was in the hellhole I described of writing the book or not writing the book and just blocked and stuck, that was my medicine. I went back and watched Sex in the City from the very beginning. Like every day I would just end up lying down and going into a Sex in the City coma. And it was that I found it very healing. It was also incredibly embarrassing to watch again. It's like, oh my gosh, some of these jokes are so bad. Yeah. I'm so happy nobody is watching them with me because I'd be too embarrassed to have anybody else in the room. But like Charlotte learning to cook a Seder meal, and like I think she wrote Harry's name in the cookbook, and the voiceover says, in high school, Charlotte doodled. With Harry, she joodled. And like, oh, this is really upsetting. But then like over the course of all those seasons, you're like, gosh, the character development really is good and accurate. And the way they portray relationships, unhealthy relationships, is so right on. And that made me fall in love with it all over again. It's just like the big storyline, the friends being like, we cannot be here for you the next time you get back together with them. She'd be like, well, I got something to tell you. And you're like, oh no, I've been there. I've been that person complaining about the boyfriend, the relationship, people saying like, he's never going to change, something that you have to change in order for him to change. And I felt like that's a really good aspect of the show. And then this new one, I'm a little bit of an apologist for it. I mean, it's horrific in many ways, like the woke
but
moment.
I watched it every week. Yeah, I mean, like I looked
Me
forward to
too.
watching it every week. So it's that
Same.
weird thing of like I was talking I interviewed about something about hate watching and I was like I
Yeah.
hate watch that show, but then there is a, if you hate, if you're watching it because you hate something, there's this internalized love that it implies
Yes.
if you are like, and then I would think about scenes and I would think about it from a comedic angle, but then I would be like, okay, overall they're trying. And I'm so curious in the second season if they find more of their voice after so many years off, because all the elements are there. And you talked about in the original series, there were those moments where you go back, if you watch it and you're like, oh my God, how did this make it to air? That's like insane. So I'm like, they're just speeding up that process in the first season of, oh my God. And maybe the second season, but also that Kim Cattrall's coming back. And you talk about bad
Yes.
relationships. It's so meta because Kim Cattrall wants nothing to do with anybody on that series. Yet she filmed something and she filmed her part in a studio by herself on a phone call with Sarah Jessica Parker. But part of her contract was, I won't want any like contact with any of those ladies, nor the show's creator. Like, isn't that wild?
Yes. It is. Yeah, it's like in a trailer 100 feet away.
Yeah, Raquel. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, she did it restraining order style, which is fascinating. And so obviously that's going to like inform and color the viewing experience for us, like knowing that whatever goes on between them, knowing that it's probably not reflective of the reality, and we're going to be watching through like two lenses at once, which I'm kind of excited for. But yeah, I think that they probably, their first season was probably a big learning moment, a teachable moment. Like, oh my God, we don't have to put so much wokeness into it. Like that moment is over. They don't have to panic woke it up, and which they did. They stuffed every kind of 2020ism into that thing.
Every
Yes.
trope. Yeah. Like
Yes.
it was like kind of that last season of Roni in a sense, but they tried to do it with a wink and a nudge. And those two, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they can find that sweet spot of where we are today and that we already love these characters going into the second season of this. So it's always interesting to see what they can do. And I think deep down, everybody roots for that show.
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot of hate for it online. And oh yeah, I mentioned Samantha Irby before. I'm a big fan of hers, and especially listening to, so I went deep with and Just Like That, and also listened to the Writers Room podcast. And she's in the Writers Room. It's very enjoyable and makes you feel extra loyal to the show and kind of understand their choices. So I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense. I can see why they would have, Miranda talking about the professor's braids and then freaking out and messing up in front of
touching the hair.
Yes, that was a disaster. But you start to hear the writers talk about it, and you side with them, and you're like, okay, they really tried their best, and you re-appreciate the moments that were actually funny and well done. And also, I was aware of her feeling kind of tormented by how mean people were on the internet about the show.
So they talk about the reaction that the show got. That's what I would really be fascinated to hear.
Yeah, it is worth a listen. Like, I think the whole thing, it's worth a rewatch, maybe in preparation for, we've got time, rewatch it. And then the season premieres later this month, right? June. I don't know, depending on when this is airing.
Like June 23rd, or this will be just airing next week. So it will be airing the next week. Well, no, actually, I think it's airing the week that this comes out.
Oh, if I'm not mistaken. Exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, then anyone listening will just have to rewatch it in tandem with, which is what you do with Vanderpump Rules if you never watched it before. You watch the final season.
You do it with a smile on your face.
Mm-hmm.
It is completely enjoyable to do rewatches, and it's completely enjoyable to read this book. It is called Tough Titties, you guys. The link will be in the show notes. I'm going to put it up on my Instagram stories when this gets released as well, so you'll be able to click the link right there. But I think this is worth your time. This is such a quick, easy, fun, just enjoyable read, but also you get something out of it. And I think that is your sweet spot. What is next for you, Laura? What are you dreaming next?
Oh gosh, I am still like working on getting this book out there. I shouldn't say still, but it feels like I've been promoting it forever, like just to get
Yeah, I
pre-orders out
bet,
there.
huh?
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, now I have to figure out, everyone's like, you're doing great, keep going. Now's when you cash in on the momentum. I was like, oh, I had it in my calendar to rest. But oh well,
Yeah.
I guess.
No, it's cash in on momentum and the calendar right now. And that's a whole
Yeah.
nother thing. It's like, you know, that's the thing that sucks. Like you can put a podcast out, you can put all this stuff, but it's like, it's not that, it's like the promotion of, and that's like the icky feeling. Like whenever you have to shout yourself out, and we were talking about narcissists, not that Bethany or Tom are one, but like the fact that they can shout themselves out, influencers shout themselves out every day. But for me, the thing that's been hard with this is that just getting over that feeling of shouting yourself out too much, or it like too wrong, or like going because sometimes I'll be when I read somebody's thing. Does that, I
Yes.
imagine you kind of feel similar sometimes of having to shout yourself out.
Yes, well, I've learned that it is, first of all, essential. And I like to give it a little reframe that if you don't, if you don't tell everybody about what you're doing, for instance, you don't tell everybody about this podcast and and talk about it ad nauseum, then you're depriving people who might find it and love it from the joy of finding it and loving it. So it's a disservice to them. And that is how I like to think of it when I'm like, oh God, I'm so like me, 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 me. But I know that there are people, and like there are podcasts, books, shows, etc., that I've been so delighted to discover. And I'm like, thank God I found this. Why didn't anyone tell me about this before? Or I think, what a tragedy would it would be if I didn't hear about this, and if the person were not willing to promote themselves and willing to promote their work. So I think you have to do it, and it is in service both to you and what you do, and to the people who are going to be so happy that they found you. So I feel like you got to go full throttle. Like I am so thrilled to discover this podcast, and like I'm a fan for life now. I'm going to be listening to like back episodes. You're so good. So I hope that you're out there promoting it.
Or are you talking about
Just
me right now? I
I'm
thought you were
talking
like giving an
about
example.
you.
I was like, oh wow. I was like,
No,
yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah,
we're no
yeah.
longer talking theoretically. Now I'm talking
I was like, yeah, everybody.
specifically
Yeah.
about So Bad It's Good. You got to tell everybody
uh,
about it. I will.
well,
And yeah, be willing to promote yourself. Be willing to be a star. It doesn't make you a narcissist unless you're like, I'm the only reason the world exists. I'm the Greek chorus of the entire world, and it's all going to fall apart without me.
well, thank you for letting me discover you and let me shout you out to everybody. I will now be a fan of yours for life. And because I was like devouring even your website, guys, she's a whole thing going on. You got to check it out. Laura Belgray, I hope you'll come back when the Roni stuff comes back on, just so we can just talk about the insanity that is Roni. But I wish you all the best, and I hope we stay in touch, because you truly are amazing. And it was just such a delightful read. So thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, Ryan. And we are staying in touch. You might regret that, but it's happening.
We'll see.